good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, the longest reigning champion in the sport of boxing today has come to an end with featherweight WBC superstar boxer Mr. Gary Russell Jr. 31 wins now, 2 losses, no draws, 18 wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, 5'4" with a 64-inch arm reach. He lost a majority decision to Mark Magsayo last night. Mark Magsayo is now the WBC featherweight champion, 24 wins, no losses, no draws, 16 wins by way of knockout, 26 years of age, 5'6" with a 68-inch arm reach. With that said, there was a lot that took place in this fight last night that was working against Mr. Gary Russell Jr. Let's be very clear. Gary Russell Jr. clearly injured his shoulder in the 4th round of this fight. Clearly. His right shoulder in the 4th round of this fight. And he couldn't use the shoulder. Okay? He couldn't use his right hand at all whatsoever. Gary Russell Jr. was one-handed. He's a southpaw. Okay? But Gary Russell, he outboxed Mark Magsayo with one hand. Okay, from the 4th round to the 9th round, you didn't even see him use even paw with the jab, okay? He completely was handicapped with one arm. And he still was outboxing Mark Magsayo, making him miss, being slick, countering him with the left hand, although Mark Magsayo knew what was coming because he was handicapped, okay? He was limited, okay? He could only use his left hand. Now, he's a southpaw, and that's his dominant hand, and he was going to the body with it. He was still feinting with it. He was using it in combinations. Impressive. Clearly, you could see that he had an injury. Clearly, you could see he couldn't use it. But yet, he was still slick. Mark Magsayo couldn't counter him. He couldn't corner him. He couldn't hurt him, okay? He still was being dominated on the boxing level aspect, okay? And because Gary Russell Jr. makes it clear that he had an injured shoulder, and you could clearly see the injury, Gary Russell has turned into the villain. Everybody is talking about why Gary Russell didn't just pull out and have surgery before the fight. Why Gary Russell Jr., it's not Mark Magsayo's fault that he fought with the injured shoulder. Not take credit away from Mark Magsayo. It's not fair to Mark Magsayo that Gary Russell is claiming an injury. But I wonder, when 2-time Olympic gold medalist, 3-division world champion, unified lightweight world champion, Ukrainian superstar boxer Vasily Lomachenko, now 16 wins, 2 losses, no draws, 11 wins by way of knockout. He too is 33 years of age, 5'6" with a 64-inch arm reach. When he fought a very green, very young TEOFIMO Lopez, and TEOFIMO Lopez was only 15 wins, 1 title fight, his fight before the Lomachenko fight against Richie Comey, in which he brutally knocked out Richie Comey. TEOFIMO Lopez at 23 years of age, 15 wins, no losses, no draws, 12 wins by way of knockout, 5'8", with a 69-inch arm reach, 1 title fight. Many people thought he was exposed, right? When he fought Nakatani the fight before Richard Comey. And people said that TEOFIMO Lopez was exposed. TEOFIMO Lopez is green. Lomachenko was already a 3-division champion, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. The Matrix. Many people had him pound for pound best fight in the world. He only had 1 loss. He went into the fight with 14 wins and 1 loss. He was already 31, 32 years of age. He already was a unified champion. And TEOFIMO Lopez dominated Vasily Lomachenko the first 7 rounds, clearly winning the first 7 rounds, outboxing Vasily Lomachenko, outsmarting Vasily Lomachenko. Lomachenko couldn't even throw more than a double digit. He never threw more than 9 punches in the first 7 rounds. He didn't throw double digit punches until the 9th round, the 8th round. Now, he clearly won the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th round, but that was largely in due part to Teofimo Lopez changing his style and his approach and his game plan and trying to stay in the pocket, sit down on his punches, stay stationary, and try to knock out Lomachenko. But then he went back to his original game plan in the 12th round and nearly stopped Vasily Lomachenko. And the narrative after the fight was not that Teofimo Lopez got a great victory. The narrative after the fight for mainstream boxing media, these boxing pundits and analysts that we quote unquote consider to be mainstream, well, they stated that it was because Lomachenko had a shoulder injury. He clearly had a shoulder injury, but you saw no effects of this shoulder injury in the fight. You never actually saw any ill effects from the shoulder injury in the fight. Only after the fight, they tell you that he injured his shoulder in training camp and he shouldn't have had the fight. And thus the reason why legendary promoter, Top Rank CEO and promoter Bob Arum and Top Rank, they stated that Lomachenko deserved an immediate rematch because Lomachenko was handicapped going into the fight. And everybody praised Vasily Lomachenko for his bravery, for his heart, for going into the fight and competing with a guy like Teofimo Lopez, who was a young fighter. And Teofimo Lopez, was big and strong. And Lomachenko got in the ring with Teofimo Lopez. Well, Mark Magsayo had 23 fights. No losses, no draws, 16 knockouts, 26 years of age, into his grown man strength, 5'6" with a 68-inch arm reach. So he had a 4-inch arm reach advantage over Gary Russell Jr. yesterday. He had a 2 to 3 inch height advantage over Gary Russell Jr. last night. And he clearly was the much bigger guy in the ring. Clearly, by far. It wasn't even close. They looked like they were 2 weight classes apart from one another. You can clearly see Gary Russell injure his shoulder in the 4th round. You saw him wince in pain as soon as it happened. You saw him back up to the ropes, and you saw him not use not even a jab, not so much as a jab with the right hand. What's ironic here is this, is that Gary Russell is a southpaw, just like Vasily Lomachenko, and Gary Russell injured his right shoulder just like Vasily Lomachenko. The difference is, Mark Magsayo went into this fight with more knockouts, with more power than Teofimo Lopez. 16 to Teofimo Lopez 12. 26 years of age to Teofimo Lopez being 23. Much bigger guy, clearly. And so with that said, you can clearly see the injury to Gary Russell Jr. and him not being able to use his right arm and being handicapped the entire rest of the fight after the 4th round. You saw no visual effects from Lomachenko's right shoulder the entire fight because everybody was saying, well, his shoulder must be hurt. That's why he didn't use it in the first 7 rounds. But he used it just fine 8, 9, 10, and 11 when he won those rounds. He was throwing combinations. He was using the right arm. He was using the jab. He was throwing hooks. He was using the right arm. Gary Russell, the entire fight from round 4 on, he never used the right arm. Not so much as a jab. All he did at times was to measure the distance between him and Mark Magsayo when he put up the right hand just to measure the distance. Never threw it. Mark Magsayo, from the 4th round on, never had any worries about Gary Russell ever using the right arm. His right hand. Didn't have to worry about the jab, right hooks, nothing. Jab to the solar plex. And yet he still was getting outboxed. If you look at the fight, he was getting outboxed. He could not corner Gary Russell Jr. And Gary Russell Jr. wasn't running around the ring. He was standing still in front of him and twisting and turning him in the pocket. Every bit of what they give Vasily Lomachenko credit for and call him the Matrix. Look at the angles that Lomachenko is using. If Lomachenko had been in that fight, Lomachenko was outclassed the first 7 rounds. He lost the fight. The fight was over. You lose the first 7 rounds of a fight. There's only 12 rounds in a fight. You can't even get a draw at that point when you lose the first 7 rounds. You can't even get a draw. You need a knockout to win the fight. He got outclassed. Gary Russell lost the majority decision in which most people feel like Gary Russell won the fight. If Lomachenko had had that performance that Gary Russell had last night, he would be considered a hero, and the whole boxing world would be in an uproar claiming how he got robbed. The entire boxing world would be telling you the unfairness in the decision on the part of the judges. The entire world will be telling you how much of a hero and how great of a fighter Lomachenko is. They'll be telling you about his angles. They'll be telling you about his footwork. They'll be telling you about his heart. But what they're telling you about Gary Russell Jr. is he's making excuses. What Gary Russell did yesterday was bigger than getting a victory. What Gary Russell did yesterday was expose the hypocrisy and the double standards within the sport of boxing and on his biggest stage. And that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. And I hope that the boxing world, this quote-unquote mainstream media, I hope that they call for an immediate rematch like they called for Lomachenko with Teofimo Lopez when they cited that Lomachenko went in the fight not being full strength, when you saw no visual effects from Lomachenko's shoulder in that fight with Teofimo Lopez. So you took away from Teofimo Lopez, a 23-year-old kid with only 15 fights who dominated the first 7 rounds. You took away his victory. And you called for an immediate rematch. Now let's see if they call for an immediate rematch with Gary Russell Jr. Everybody applauded Vasily Lomachenko for having surgery after the fight. But everybody vilifies Gary Russell Jr. and saying, well, Gary Russell Jr. should have had the surgery before. Amazing, isn't it? But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon and get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Hi, my name is Heather Vahid Hardy, and you're watching Blue Blood Sports TV.